Welcome back to the channel, and once again they show you that something must be going on behind the scenes. You tell me what you think about this. This article is titled Tucrium, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Tucrium CEO says they launched an XRP ETF because he sees Ripple hopefully taking over Swift, or like taking over what Swift does, right? That's really what this individual means. Listen to this. It says he had frustrations with the slow, outdated banking systems that helped him connect with Ripple's mission to modernize cross-border payments. He said, quote, "I understand the financial system. I understand the banking system to some degree. And I understand, as we all do, when you try to send a wire, it's a hassle." Okay. So far, reasonable, right? But still, that's not really enough for a company to put their dollars behind an asset massively. There has to be another reason. But wait, let's keep going. He continues on. It says he highlighted how Ripple's team has spent years building the foundation to upgrade how global money transfers work. He believes that effort puts them in a strong position to lead, suggesting they could, quote, hopefully replace Swift. So he continues on. Wait. It says, quote, "The Ripple team," here's a quote, "The Ripple team from their outset have been out there laying the groundwork in the background to change the financial system." Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. So we all know the multitude of projects that Ripple has worked on with central banks, some commercial banks as well, some companies they work with. We know a lot. Would you consider that to be in the background? I mean, these things were in the news, albeit maybe they're not. It wasn't in the super mainstream news, but it was in the news. A lot of us know. Is that background? Or is this a slip? He said they're laying the groundwork in the background. Well, what I just talked about, that would be at the forefront. That's things that anyone can search up. That's some of the first things that people should bring up if they're XRP enthusiasts talking to someone, and a lot of people do, that is newly coming into XRP. That's in the forefront. What does he mean by laying the groundwork in the background? That's one. Number two, folks, if they're going to put big money behind XRP or anything involved with capitalizing off of the power of XRP, you don't think that these companies like Tucrium, right, are going to their research teams and their advisors and saying, hey, what's the most potent crypto? Give me a good reason why. And those reasonings to put big money behind these assets has to be more than what we know out here in the public. Has to be. I mean, am I the only one that thinks that way? He said in the background. What do you mean by that? Clarify. Why don't you clarify? They're saying here in this article that he was speaking in a podcast. All right, well, podcasts typically are very long, so you have plenty of time to elaborate. I'm not saying that they didn't elaborate, but here in this article, they don't give a solid reason as to why you would say such a thing, or a real firm catalyst to really go deep. Now, for retail, that's different. We understand things, we know things, we are our own research teams. But when companies get in deep, there's always a less visible catalyst. Typically there's a less visible catalyst, and there has to be one. Listen, Ripple can be impactful in a variety of ways. They're working with central banks. They have global reach, all types of things. He specifically says Swift. What do you know? What does this individual know that we don't? And another thing, there's been a lot of, people at the top of companies speaking like this, as if they know something that we do not know. There's something floating around behind the scenes. He says background. They're out there laying the groundwork in the background, not the forefront. What does background mean to you? I'm just saying, and I felt as though, and I've said this plenty of times, Ripple's trying to bring Swift to the table. They know they have Swift right where they want them. And this is probably one of the reasons that You have a lot of the activities that have gone on over the years to slow them down, because they will absolutely, in my humble opinion, absolutely dominate Swift. Swift has lost their positioning as far as global reach because of all the geopolitical tension. I said that plenty of times as well. So Ripple can run wild. Ripple, Cardano, all these different companies. And they will operate as a conglomeration, in my humble opinion, just like Swift does. Swift is a whole bunch of different banks together. The bank coin companies will be no different, as you've seen them coming together and conglomerating already and making plans to accelerate that. So he says, hopefully the Swift system, unquote, he remarked. Gilberti pointed to Ripple's focus and professionalism. That's it. Folks, do you really believe that? That's why a company would go in deep on XRP. I will have to respectfully disagree. It says Gilberti pointed to Ripple's focus and professionalism, saying they stayed consistent in their goal to improve financial infrastructure. He believes XRP will likely come out on top in the race to modernize payments, citing its speed and growing market share. Now, I agree with all of that. And once again, I do believe that Ripple will bring Swift to the table. They will wave the white flag, Swift. And that definitely will bring trillions to the table, quadrillions, as it's scaled over the years, but we shall see. I mean, I don't work for Ripple. All right. I don't. It's up to them to do their job. But I agree with what he's saying here. I just don't believe that the reasoning that all of these entities are speaking up on XRP now, they're trying to collect XRP treasuries. I just don't think it's these very light catalysts that they're stating here. Is light for them, not light for us, but light for them as companies. But once again, they've known all along. A lot of these companies, from small, medium to major, have known. They're in certain circles. They know that these assets were chosen. They were. You look at all the big entities years ago, like the World Economic Forum, who has also lost lots of positioning because the world changes. Change is the only constant. But you look at their list. XRP was there. A lot of the bank coins were there. All the big entities were working with the ones that they knew were going to be big. The BIS working with who? Ripple, R3, Stellar. They knew. That's called being chosen. When you have people from the top and they're giving you time, which when you're talked about in that light, that's also promotion. So more companies are going to learn about you. So you're getting all of that. That's called being chosen. They knew. And when you're in certain circles, you have power, you have influence, you have a whole lot of value you can play with, and you have teams of analysts and researchers, you become privy to information most other people are not. Is that going on here? You tell me. And while you're doing that, take those two strong hands, make those fingers, those powerful fingers of yours that you've been working out all week, drinking water, being healthy, and press that like button. So, it continues here. It says, meanwhile, Gilberti noted that rather than competing with other giants in the spot XRP ETF race, Teucrium focused on its expertise and leverage products. Gilberti knew the firm couldn't outmuscle the industry's biggest names, so they carved out their own lane by launching a double exposure XRP ETF. Since XRP futures weren't available at the time, Teucrium structured the fund using swaps based on a Swiss ETF that held XRP. Interestingly, the move paid off. Late last month, Teucrium's 2x XRP ETF became the first US XRP ETF to cross the $300 million AUM mark. Gilberti credited the fund's performance to strong demand from the XRP community, which is a wide range of things at this point. You have so many big institutions, according to the information coming from the pros, showing purchases, moving in on the bank coins. So, and that's only going to increase over time. But let's go here. Look at this. We have a little bit more. Look at this. Everything is lining up. The golden age is right there. We even have these big timers, these big time companies and analysts now using the verbiage golden age. Told you it's coming. This article here is titled SEC declares stable coins as cash. XRP and RLUSD set to explode. Everything's going according to plan so far. Doesn't mean there's not going to be bumps and hiccups, but this is a good sign. Stablecoins as cash are now officially recognized by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission through interim guidance released on Monday. The regulatory shift permits qualifying USD-pegged stablecoins as cash to be treated as cash equivalents on corporate balance sheets, potentially triggering massive institutional adoption. They fell right into the trap, or they're going to fall right into the trap. Stable coins are a backdoor, a smokescreen. But let's keep going. And that's another thing that I believe that they know firmly, just like I've been saying, that stable coins are a trapdoor. They're going to need the bridge currencies. They're going to need the liquidity that's brought by something like an XRP. It says, this development strengthens XRP regulation clarity and accelerates RLUSD institutional adoption under SEC crypto guidance. Let's scroll down here. So then this next part is labeled why stablecoins as cash signals XRP growth and bank involvement. It begins here. It says, through several key regulatory approaches, the SEC guidance has established certain critical criteria for digital assets to qualify as cash equivalents. And these include full backing by cash or treasury bills, which is ridiculous. But okay, let's keep going. It didn't save anything before. What is it going to do now? But let's continue on. Maintaining a one-to-one peg to the US dollar. It doesn't maintain, unless you're talking about on a semi-permanent basis. Anything happens, any major event that occurs can cause bank runs, and this will be depegged. Those T-bills and that so-called cash will not do anything. They will be depegged. They were depegged before with the same backing. So the only reasonable conclusion is that what could back stablecoins in the future to actually maintain a one-to-one peg and fill the liquidity gap should a large portion of value come out of them is the liquidity from native tokens like XRP. Is that not logical? That's the only, once again, going back to that first article, those big companies know this. They know it. And I think a lot of them are going to get in on these things. They're going to get in on XRP, Solana, Chainlink, XLM, Algorand, etc., Hedera. And, you know, once again, you have to observe the partnerships they're making. If they're doing their jobs, they have to close these deals. They have to go out there. They have to put in the work to make it all function. But if they do, these companies are going to go in on them. They need it. This is a weapon, a tool that they have never had before. They definitely desire it. So if people are interested, not financial advice, of course, but if people are interested in these prices exploding to somewhere higher, and no, I won't say they're going to go up forever. No. But in the future, as of now, there is still a future trajectory where there's massive explosions. I think two or three that is yet to come. I don't think we've seen the big ones yet. Not at all. That's just my humble opinion. You do not have to agree with me. But they know this. This is one of those catalysts. We saw an article come out recently talking about, and I covered this, and you can look this up, about all the different possible ways that companies, banks can utilize XRP. They don't even have to go through Ripple. But if you're looking at private ecosystems, you're looking at closed ecosystem, they're going to hold some. It doesn't matter if the people want it or not, if the people like them holding it or not, if the people believe they're going to hold it or not, because I know a lot of people are against that. They don't have to hold it. They don't have to hold it. Doesn't mean they're not going to. That doesn't negate the possibility. And what's the difference between something constantly being in flow and you can't get it, it becomes rare, or them holding it and you can't get it and it becomes rare? Either way, we boil it down to its quintessence. What we're talking about is it becoming rare. And as it becomes more rare, the price goes through the roof. Is that not logical? Am I snapping? Maybe I'm snapping. Maybe I'm losing my noodles. Noodles, marbles? Which one is better? Which one do people say out there? I've heard all of the different things when I was younger. They're losing their noodles. They're losing their marbles. They had a bunch of cool catchphrases back then. Anyway, so one-to-one peg. It says, and also guaranteed redemption rights. Guaranteed redemption rights. You sure about that? That's an interesting phrasing. What happens when stable coins are depegged? Once again, they're going to need that liquidity, so that doesn't happen. That's the only way they can have a guaranteed redemption, because sometimes when they're depegged, they were frozen. They were depegged and they got froze. Does everybody forget about that? So I mean, unless they're going to say they're going to treat companies differently than the regular people, because when there's bank runs and there's a depegging, everyone's affected unless there's something I don't know. There could be. I'm not a know-it-all. I don't proclaim to have absolute knowledge. But if this is fair across the board, everyone's affected if there's a depeg. So if they take the same route as they did before, because once again, somebody may say, why would they do the same thing as before? Once again, they're backing it with the same values, so-called cash and treasury and T-bills, or it says cash or T-bills. Full backing by cash, T-bills, whatever. All of these different verbiages. One melts into the other. They have multiple meanings. So, I mean, just seek clarity on that, when they say these particular things. But it doesn't matter. Once again, boiling it down to its essence, this did not save them from depegging before. Hence, to back up what I'm saying, and this all goes towards they're going to need the native tokens. That's what's getting exposed more and more. The liquidity tokens. What do you think? So XRP is a liquidity token, as are a few other bank coins. Some of them the best of the best. A liquidity token that Ripple itself said was made for banks. Large businesses, banks. That's what they said. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what they said. You don't think that they were going to use that liquidity aspect? What do you think that was for? What did anyone think that was for? There's still a lot to be unveiled, I believe. Just watch. They did not deploy the advanced mechanisms. Now, with the advanced mechanisms, there's the ones that we know that have been approved upon. But there are also ways that these things can be utilized that haven't even been implemented yet. I think they're waiting on that. When people see what's going to be rolled out into the future, I believe it would make them very, very bullish on these particular assets. I don't think they want. I mean that with all my heart. I don't believe they want people too bullish. Not yet. It's not. I don't think they feel it's time yet. So they have to be very, very careful of what they do, what they say, what they unveil. Because once again, their targets, all these Bankcoin companies, their targets are the banks. They have to get them in position. It's like a hunt. They have to get them into position. And they have a great position right now, but they're still maneuvering. It's not perfect just yet. When they do, I think a lot is going to come out. All right. So now, it's actually a really good article. Actually, I'm enjoying just analyzing it, just breaking it down. It says these policy reforms have revolutionized accounting hurdles that have been preventing traditional financial institutions from adopting stablecoins as cash alternatives across significant market segments. So then it continues, and you can see how they're setting everything up for the banks to feast. That bank money's right there. It says this so they talk about the Genius Act, and it says for banks and lenders treating stable coins as cash equivalents reduces compliance risk and creates room for direct involvement without regulatory uncertainty. They want the banks involved. They need the banks to be involved with this new technology in every possible way to benefit from it in every possible way, because they are in a precarious position. They're not doing well. They must integrate and be absorbed by the new financial system. That's what this is all about. They're all coming into alignment. It says this addresses years of hesitation that discourage financial institutions from engaging with stablecoins as cash equivalents, cash alternatives, I mean. Yes, but it also gave them time to squeeze the last of the juice or liquid from the sponge that is the legacy system, the old system. It cannot sustain itself into the future the way that it has. The new financial system changes everything. It changes the speed at which value moves. It changes the visibility of it. It changes where liquidity can come from. It can scrape up liquidity from sectors and regions that were never touched before. And it goes right along with all this other type of technology where you have, LiDAR? They have some new thing now that by satellite you can scan the ground and you can see commodities in the ground. You can monetize that. Things like that. Quantum computing is coming. You have banks already testing quantum computing. So you have that. That's going to definitely be a shot of steroids to the new financial system, 100%. So it all falls right into that line where everything is changing. The financial system as a whole, really all systems around the world, are changing permanently. It's just we're focused on the new financial system. Most people are not seeing that. They're not prepared. This is why you see a lot of companies now, they're integrating AI. They have AI agents and such. You're going to see a lot of robotics. A lot of robotics rolled out of different kinds all over the place. And I'm not talking about the drones that people are used to. All of this goes together. Those who know. And that's one of the reasons why this system here, these things here are poised for, the potentiality is through the roof. They're poised for an explosion in use, in price. Not financial advice once again. I only speak for myself. I'm just stating what I'm seeing, what I'm gathering from this information. So now, let's go here before it gets too late. A little bit of Bitcoin news, of course. So this article is titled Kango. I believe that's how they're pronouncing it. Kango post massive July Bitcoin haul, boosting corporate treasury. They're all collecting Bitcoin. It begins here. 3 months into its full Bitcoin mining pivot, Chinese company Kango mined 450 Bitcoin in July. 3 months after divesting its auto financing unit to focus on Bitcoin mining, Chinese conglomerate Kango, or Kang, has significantly ramped up crypto production, indicating that its acquisition of Bitmain mining rigs is enhancing its capacity amid intensifying industry competition. Kango produced 650.5 Bitcoin in July, a sharp increase from 450 BTC in June. According to data from Farside investors, Farside also noted it has added Kango to its miners' dashboard while removing Hut 8 due to a lack of monthly production closures. Let's scroll down here. Bear with me. As Cointelegraph reported, Kango mined a combined 954.5 BTC in April and May, the first 2 months following its full transition into Bitcoin. Kango now holds 4,529.7 BTC, worth approximately $512 million. Ask yourself this question, folks. Do they believe? With this activity, with how much they're holding as of this article, do you believe that they believe? That's a wild way to put it, right? Do you think that they believe the price is going up or down? If they thought it was going down, they wouldn't have this much Bitcoin. All of these companies, many of them, when I say all, I mean many. I speak in a peculiar way at times. They believe the price is going up. That's why they're holding Bitcoin. They're creating Bitcoin treasuries, reserves, etc. The explosion is yet to come, in my humble opinion. This is placing it among the top 20 publicly traded Bitcoin holders. Industry data shows that it's approaching the ranks of companies like GameStop and ProCap BTC. The surge in production follows Kango's $256 million purchase of mining rigs from Bitmain, securing 32 exahashes per second of hash rate. The deal, announced last November as part of a broader $400 million investment strategy, $400 million, marked Kango's official pivot from auto financing to Bitcoin mining. They're all, not just this company, many other companies that we've covered here, are very serious about Bitcoin. They're trying to acquire, if we're taking these companies all together, we're looking at the big picture. They're trying to acquire Bitcoin every possible way. So despite a recent dip in its share price and negative, okay, so then they go into a little bit of that, but that's not, we don't need to get too deep into that. So as of now, Bitcoin is looking good. It's looking, the future of it, is looking good. It's not going to be without its dips, its corrections. That's going to happen, especially once again, given manipulation, and then there's a lot of fear. People are addicted to fear. That's another thing. So something goes up, they immediately become fearful. It's going to go down. It is going to go down inevitably. That's just change is the only constant. The pendulum swings that way. Get ready for the swing at some point to go this way. That's how it all works. That doesn't mean that you have to approach it with fear, but because of that fear, and it spreads by word of mouth. It spreads by article writers, etc. Then you can get a lot of selling in that way. But what you're seeing is right now that is very interesting. I think is good for if anyone wants Bitcoin to go to a much higher price permanently. And I don't mean that that'll be even the newer lows in the future will be at a much higher place. So that's what I mean. I hope I'm conveying that. So those individuals sell, which is they've been reporting retail selling a lot, and companies are buying. That's a good thing if you want Bitcoin's price to move to a much higher place at some point very soon. Who knows when, but it doesn't look like it's going to take very long. The next year and a half should be an interesting time for Bitcoin. And once again, yes, you're going to have your dips, you're going to have your corrections. And who knows how long a consolidation could last, but I don't think it's going to last for too long because all the main catalysts remain. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.